You say you're trapped, but no one shackled you, no one locked the door. You simply don't want to leave. And when Jean-Paul Sartre wrote about the human condition, he pinpointed the most painful wound of modern man. You are living in a prison you built yourself, brick by brick, excuse by excuse, tear by tear. And the cruelest truth is that you have had the key for a long time. You just refuse to use it, because being free hurts more than being a victim, because taking responsibility is more tiring than complaining, because facing your choices is scarier than blaming the world. Look at your life now. How many times did you say, "I can't," when you really wanted to say, "I won't"? How many times did you use your story as an excuse not to write a different future? Sartre exposes this brutal farce. You're not imprisoned. You're pretending to be imprisoned. And Sartre knew exactly why humans do this. The prison is convenient because it exempts you from action, protects you from responsibility, frees you from having to take control of your own existence. Here you will understand why the freedom you crave so much is also what you fear most. Tell me in the comments if you've ever experienced something like this. Write a sentence the moment you realized you were imprisoning yourself. And if you know someone who needs to hear this brutal truth, share this video. Some people only wake up when reality hits hard. Freedom sounds appealing when you talk about it, but when it knocks on your door, you run. Because true freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about accepting the consequences of everything you do. It's about looking in the mirror and accepting that you are solely responsible for what your life has become. Sartre said something that should be engraved on every man's forehead. Man is condemned to be free. Condemned, not blessed. Condemned. Because freedom is an overwhelming burden for those who want to remain children. Being free means that when you fail, the fault is yours. When you don't act, the responsibility is yours. When you accept crumbs, the choice is yours. And that's terrifying for someone who has spent their entire life waiting for someone else to solve their problems. That's why you make excuses. That's why you build imaginary limitations. That's why you choose imprisonment, because inside it, you don't have to decide anything. You don't have to risk. You don't have to fail. And above all, there's no need to assume that you have control over your own life. The man who accepts complete freedom also accepts that he is the architect of his own misery, and few have the courage to do so. They prefer to keep pointing fingers, blaming their parents, society, or anything else that relieves them of the responsibility to act. But Sartre knew this escape from freedom is also a choice, and every choice has consequences. Your consequence is living a life you have deliberately limited. In a prison you have built yourself, with keys you have concealed. Sartre had a harsh concept that destroys any man who looks at himself honestly in the mirror. Bad faith. It's not about lying to others. It's about lying to yourself. It's about constructing a convenient narrative to justify your cowardice. It's about transforming your choices into an inevitable destiny. I can't change jobs. Lie. You can. You're just afraid to try and discover that maybe you're not as special as you think. My family doesn't support me. Lie. You're using their opinion as an excuse not to face your own fears. It's too late for me. The biggest lie of all. As long as you're breathing, you have choices. You just don't want to make the difficult ones. These phrases you repeat are masks to avoid the burden of freedom. They are lies you tell yourself to stay comfortably imprisoned, because the truth is unbearable. You can change. Today, now. But change requires courage. It demands that you admit you've wasted time, that you accepted less than you deserved, that you lived below your potential, and that hurts. So you prefer bad faith. You prefer to believe you're trapped, that you have no options, that you're a victim of circumstances. Bad faith is the art of lying to yourself so convincingly that you end up believing it. It's pretending you have no choice when in fact you have thousands. It's turning freedom into limitation, possibility into impossibility, power into impotence. And the worst part, Sartre showed that you do this consciously. Deep down, you know you're lying, but the lie is more comfortable than the truth. Prison is safer than freedom. Victimization is easier than taking responsibility. If any part of this video has made you reflect, mark this moment in the comments. That's where change begins. And if it made sense up to here, leave a like. Not for me, but for yourself. The awareness that no one is holding you hostage can utterly destroy you, because it signifies that everything you complain about, everything you accept, everything you endure in silence, is a choice you made. It means you are solely responsible for the mediocrity of your life, for the disrespect you tolerate, for the invisibility you carry, and for the future you fail to construct. And that realization can be devastating. It can cause you to collapse. It can shatter all your justifications, all your excuses, all your victim stories. But it is precisely within this breakdown that reconstruction begins. Because when you stop blaming the world, you start to see your options. When you cease to victimize yourself, you begin to take responsibility. When you stop waiting for someone else to save you, you start to save yourself. Freedom is not comfort. It is not safety. It is not a guarantee of success. Freedom is authority over oneself. It's the capacity to choose your fears rather than being dictated by them. It's consciously deciding what to accept and what to reject, what to tolerate and what to fight. Sartre understood that freedom is unsettling because it places the entire weight of existence squarely on your shoulders. There's no one else to blame, no more excuses to offer, no more sad stories to tell. There is only you, your choices, and your consequences. And for most men, that is unbearable. That's why they prefer incarceration. They prefer to believe they are victims, that they have no control, that life happens to them, not because of them. But for the man who embraces total freedom, it becomes the most powerful tool that exists. Because when you take full control over your choices, you take full control over your destiny. And this is not cheap motivation. It is radical responsibility. Your fears dictate your routine. Your excuses become the walls around you. Your imaginary limitations turn into real bars. In the end, you live in a prison you designed, built, and locked from inside. Sartre would say with his characteristic coldness, you are solely responsible for everything you choose to remain in. Every morning, you choose to wake up in the same bed, in the same life, with the same problems. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Because change is hard. Because leaving your comfort zone hurts. Because taking risks is frightening. You have created a small world where you can feel safe, where you can control all variables, where you can predict all outcomes. And he called this reality. But it is not reality. It is a limited version of reality that you constructed to avoid confronting your true possibilities, to avoid discovering what you are truly capable of, to avoid risking failure while attempting something greater. Look around you. How many of your limitations are genuine? How many of your "I can't" statements are based on concrete facts? How many of your excuses would withstand an honest examination? The truth is, you live in a conceptual prison, a cage forged from thoughts, fears, and justifications, and the key has always been in your hand. But using the key means stepping out, and stepping out means facing a larger, more complex, more challenging world. It means accepting that you might fail, that you might be disappointed, that you may discover you're not as special as you thought. And that is terrifying. So you prefer to stay. You prefer the known prison over the unknown territory. You prefer familiar limitations over frightening freedom, and call that being realistic. But it's not realism. It's cowardice disguised as prudence. The rupture begins with a simple act that most men refuse to undertake. Cease blaming. Stop blaming your parents for what they did or failed to do. Stop blaming society for its injustices. Stop blaming circumstances for your limitations. Because as long as you blame, you remain a victim. And victims lack power. Only those responsible hold power. Then comes the hardest decision. Act despite fear. Don't wait for the fear to pass. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to be sure. Act knowing that you might fail, knowing you could be disappointed, knowing you might discover you're wrong, but act anyway. Because action is the only thing that turns possibility into reality. Freedom is not a state you achieve. It is a daily exercise of choice, and rupture from your passive self-image. It is waking up every day and consciously deciding who you will be, what you will accept, what you will reject, how you will respond. Every day you have the opportunity to choose freedom or imprisonment, responsibility or victimization, action or paralysis. And this choice never stops. It never becomes automatic. It never becomes easy. Sartre understood that freedom is a burden you carry until you die, because being free means never stopping choosing, never stopping taking responsibility, never ceasing to confront your possibilities, and that is exhausting. But it is also the only way to live a life worth living, a life you have chosen, a life for which you bear full responsibility, a life that is genuinely yours, not a life that simply happened to you, but a life you created decision by decision, choice by choice, act by act. No one is imprisoning you. This is the most brutal yet most liberating truth you can face. There is no external force controlling your life, no inevitable fate dictating your future, no real limitation preventing your evolution. There is only you, your choices, and your excuses. And if you remain stagnant, if you are still in the same life, facing the same problems, making the same complaints, it's because deep down, you're afraid to discover what to do with the key. You're afraid to leave the prison because you don't know how to live outside of it. You fear freedom because it demands that you mature, that you take control, that you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life. Sartre exposes the most comfortable lie of human existence, the idea that we are victims of circumstances. The truth is that we are architects of our limitations, creators of our prisons, authors of our excuses. And when you accept this, when you stop fleeing from this radical responsibility, something extraordinary happens. You realize you have power, real power. The power to change, the power to choose, the power to completely rebuild your life. But this power comes at a cost. You can never again blame anyone. Never again see yourself as a victim. Never again pretend you have no choice. For most people, this price is too high. They prefer the comfortable prison over the terrifying freedom. They prefer the known victimhood over the unknown responsibility. They prefer to stay locked in, unaware that they always held the key. Now tell me, are you still going to try to gain understanding by remaining imprisoned? Or have you already realized that you always had the key? Write this in the comments. It's your contract to break free from the lie. And if you want to keep hearing truths that no one else dares to tell you, subscribe. Here, illusions do not survive. Here you discover that the only true prison is the one you accept to carry.